John 8 and verse 44. You are of your father the devil, and you want to do the desires of your father. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. Whenever he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own nature, for he is a liar and the father of lies. Genesis 3 and verse 6. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. She also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. Welcome to our third podcast on spiritual warfare. We've been looking at our enemy, 1 Peter 5 and verse 8, who is the god of this world, who is the prince of this world, who controls the whole world. And in 1 John 5 and 19 it says, and the whole world lies under his sway. He has only one agenda. In John 10 and 10, the thief does not come but to steal and to kill and to destroy. And we see him in action in the Garden of Eden. And as Jesus said, he is the father of lies. He can't even speak without lying. And because Eve believed his lie, it was the beginning of the fall of man. I want to notice the lies of Satan today, and I want to think about those lies and why it was that Eve listened to those lies. The lies were pretty simple, and really they haven't changed any from the beginning of Satan's dealing with man till today, as we're going to see. But he said, you shall surely not die. In other words, Eve, you really need to understand that you can't take everything God says literally. I know it says that if he said that if you eat, you shall die, but you really won't die. I mean, can you really trust God? Can you really trust what he says? Is it wrong to question God? And then he said, your eyes will be opened. Everyone wants enlightenment. Everyone wants to know more, and understand more. And you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Genesis 3:5. In other words, you don't need God to tell you what's right and wrong. You can know what's right and wrong on your own. I mean, who does God think he is? Doesn't he think you're intelligent enough to know what's right and what's wrong without being told? It's interesting that when we read Genesis 3 and verse 6, that Eve listening to those lies, and when she did, she internalized. She said, well, I'm just going to look at this thing logically. I mean, I have on one side what God said, but then I have on the other side Satan, who is speaking to me through this serpent. And what he's saying makes some sense. I mean, after all, when you look at this tree, it's good for food. It's not any different than any other tree in the garden. I mean, what's wrong with eating of this? It's good. That's the lie that every one of us believes in so many ways. When God put that tree in the garden, it was no different than any other tree. But he had to put something in the garden to show man that, listen, I am God, not you. And you've got to trust me and put your faith in me, that I can tell you what's right and I can tell you what's wrong. It could have been anything. It could have been a creek or a mountain. Don't touch this mountain. But it was just something there to show man that, listen, I am God and you've got to trust me. And then it was pleasant to the eyes, it looked good, and the tree was desirable to make one wise. Everyone wants to be smarter. Everyone wants to learn more. What can be the harm in that? And so she took of the fruit and she ate. And she gave to her husband who was with her, and he ate. You know, as Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun. Today, Satan uses the same lies that he used in the garden, and people still believe them. For instance, let's look at those lies and let's just compare them with false religions or false doctrines of today that are nothing more than a brushing off of those same lies that were in the garden. You shall surely not die. You know, the doctrine of reincarnation is believed by 22% of Europeans, 20% of Americans, and 12 or more percent of the rest of the world's population believe in reincarnation. That's billions of people. Yet, ever since the Garden of Eden, we've seen that man did die. We're dying. The graveyards are full of people who are dying. But not only that, we are dying spiritually because we're separated from God. There's once to live and once to die and once to be judged before the Lord. And yet, billions of people are looking for another birth after their death. Well, there's a new birth, all right, but it's not being born in some other way, to some other thing. One of the greatest things about Jesus Christ is he came to fulfill our destiny. He became a man, and then he was raised from the dead with a glorified body, because that's our destiny. Our destiny is not to keep coming back and back until we get it right, because, brother, we'll never get it right. Never. That doctrine has caused there to be classes of people. In the Hindu religion and other religions, it's taught if you come back a lower class of person, it's because you deserve to be there. Because in your former life, you didn't live up to what you should have lived up to. Thank God for Jesus Christ and grace. The second is your eyes will be opened. That's esotericism. That's the New Age movement. That's the movement where you need to be enlightened through this transcendental meditation. Oh, I'm spiritually enlightened. I'm contacting the universe. I'm contacting the spirit world. The only thing is there are many evil spirits in the world. And what you're contacting may not be of God at all. In fact, it isn't. The wisdom of God is not found in some spirit that is existing in nature. It's in the Word of God. For God has given us all things that pertain to life and godliness. And then the one that is probably the most hideous and evil of all, and that is, you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Genesis 3:5. Relativism. Relativism is the new religion, is quickly becoming the new religion in America today. And it is the idea that man is like God and is able to distinguish good and evil on his own. And since man is his own God, he's free to write his own rules. There was a woman who was appearing on a TV show, and she was speaking of her adulterous affairs, and she saw that maybe some in the audience didn't agree with her. And she said, of course, what I'm doing may not be right for everyone, but it's what's right for me, and you have no right to say it's wrong. I'm afraid this is the greatest danger that faces the church today. You see, there are those who follow relativism as their religion. And when we stand up and say, no, what you're doing is wrong, there's going to be a backlash. People in the world today believe that you can do your own thing, and it really doesn't matter. And so relativism is taking over, and it's really going to affect the church in the future. It won't be enough for us to say we love you, and your sin is not any worse than our sin, and we know we all battle sin together, and we know we can rest on the grace of God. It'll be, don't you call what I do sin. And if you do, you'll suffer the consequences. You see, Satan's lies haven't changed any at all. They're the same lies in the Garden of Eden. Well, God's response to those, to Adam and to Eve and to Satan, was that he judged Adam and Eve. The serpent was judged, but it was at that time that God revealed his eternal plan of salvation. He revealed that it was going to be a human being from the seed of woman who would crush his head. And from that point on, the war begins. The dragon searches for the seed of woman to destroy the one who will crush his head. In our next podcast, we will go and see throughout history that it's been a river of blood, of Satan trying to destroy the people and the race and the person that would crush his head. If this podcast has been an encouragement to you, please go to John D. Kimbrough to hear more. Thank you.